And good morning in Australia. Welcome to Hashem's podcast. This morning we're lucky enough to be speaking to a very special guest. So let me tell you a little background about our guest. So Priscilla Presley, Boney M, Alby Mangels, Barry Crocker, Tippi Hedren from the Hitchcock's classic film The Birds, and other Hollywood celebrities and senior government officials have all visited the home of Lynn Santer. Her many years in the media, publishing, and the entertainment industry has seen her become an acclaimed Hollywood producer and also an avid animal lover. Internationally acclaimed film producer and best-selling author, Lynn Santer is joining us all the way from Queensland in the morning in Queensland and evening or nighttime in Cairo in the Middle East here. She's joining our podcast. She's a number one best-selling author in the UK, and she'll talk to us about her incredible life in film and literary the industry. Lynn started her career in both finance and law, graduating from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology and the University of Sydney after her family emigrated from London in 1978. She wrote her first novel, Sins of Life, about life insurance, which ultimately became the number one selling title for its publisher in the UK in 1999 and was optioned by Ziggy Camisar, the Kingsman franchise, Olympus Has Fallen, The Expendables 2 of Scorpio Productions in Pinewood Studios, UK. Spurred by her success with Sins of Life, Lynn wrote two more novels in the Sins of Life series and rewrote her first foray in the literary world, The Magical Scarecrows. She has also become a much sought after celebrity biographer from the early 2000s, and following 10 years, Lynn wrote and authorized biographies or ghost wrote autobiographies for many notable figures, including a world champion figure skater, the world's first female rescue helicopter pilot, and also the flamboyant psychic often deployed by law enforcement agencies, the former personal pilot of the heinous Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein, and pioneer of the reality TV series genre Australian adventure Alby Mangels. Inspiration came calling for a brand new animated feature musical project called Swan Song that Lynn has developed with the iconic Priscilla Presley. Exploded onto the scene right after Swan Song will be Lynn's third collaboration with Priscilla Presley and musically her third collaboration with the inspirational Mazani Youth Choir of Soweto. So we are so happy and privileged to have with us all the way from Queensland, Lynn. Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning. Thank you for that embarrassing introduction,
I only
and
read
thank you for
about
having the show.
2% of it, yeah. Well, so happy to have you on. It's such a big history and a great history. So I like to begin from the beginning. So you initially studied law and finance because your parents said, well, you're not going to make a living doing the arts. And then your first book was about insurance, and I think one of the main characters was called Nick. So that book was about, I think, old money, inherited money, blood money, but it was also a very moral story, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Um, my parents actually said to me, you're never going to make a living as an author. You have to become a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, sort of thing. So that's why I became qualified and studied in law and finance. But of course, I subsequently made my career in my dream, which was writing and film production. But yes, I was working in finance in the insurance industry when I discovered a very dark skeleton in the closet, a very dark skeleton from the past. You can't do this today. In fact, international law was changed to stop this happening today. That's how much it had been happening. Where in times of depression, as horrendous as this is going to sound, it's true, people were taking out life insurance policies on their children and killing them for the money.
Oh,
And the premise of Sins of life insurance, is that there was a particularly unscrupulous salesman who made his fortune by selling these policies. And of course, he comes to a gruesome end in the story, as he should.
yeah. So that's a grim way to begin the it's a realistic book, but it's a harsh reality, isn't it?
It's a fictional novel, but it's based in historical fact. Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that studying law helped in the media world? Because I did a bit, I studied
Oh,
a bit
yeah.
of, I didn't get to finish my law degree, but I studied a bit of it, and it taught me how to argue and how to read a lot and how to decipher information and navigate information. I think it's a great study for media people, isn't it?
Having some knowledge of law is useful in every aspect of life.
Yes, amazing. So what happened after that? How did you continue? So that was a bestseller in the UK.
Yes, that was a big surprise because it was my debut novel. Um, but around about that time, my father suffered a serious accident in Australia, and I'd been living back in London. I'm born and raised in London. We emigrated as a family to Australia in '78.
Yeah.
I'd moved back to London for 5 years. And it was just as Sense of Life was released that my father suffered an accident, and I basically left my life in London behind and went back to Australia to help my mother with my father, which became 25 years of my life, five with my father and then 20 with my mother, which wasn't part of the plan. But anyway, I continued my writing career once I was back in Australia. Wrote two more novels, as you said, as sequels to the initial Sins of Life debut. And then I started a business as a writer for hire, which is how I became the authorized biographer and ghostwriter of autobiographies for some extremely interesting people.
It's interesting personality. So I've had some great Australians on the show. I've had David Williamson, the great playwright, and obviously, and also Barry Creighton. Now, I always ask them, what is the difference between novel writing and screenplay writing? So your novels, how do you construct a novel? What do you think about? Do you think about the protagonist and the antagonist and all the little fine details of what's happening in the room, the smell of the room? How does it cook up for you?
Okay, well, there are two things that are in common between novel writing and screenplay writing. And certainly the way I approach them, the story and the characters have to be completely mapped out before you actually start writing. So you have to know where you're starting, know where you're ending, know who your protagonist and antagonist are, and what their motivations are, and what the protagonist's arc is going to be, what the major turning points in the stories are. You have to have it fully structured, what I do, before I write. Excuse me. However, in the writing of a novel versus the writing of a screenplay, this is where they separate. I mean, you have to go into sometimes excruciating detail in a novel about what the character is thinking and feeling and seeing and smelling. And especially when I was writing non-fiction ghosted autobiographies for other people, and one particularly comes to mind that was called Brother Doctor, who was a medical doctor working in Iraq during the time of some of Sudan's holocausts. And he gave me bullet point emotionless notes, and I had to be him in writing this story. I had to somehow, and I'd clearly not had this experience, understand what he was feeling and thinking and seeing and smelling. And when I gave him the manuscript back, he wept. He said, "How could you possibly know?" And I call this method writing. Whether I'm writing fiction or non-fiction, I live the story through my main character's eyes. And sometimes that's quite exhausting. It certainly was in writing that book. Sometimes it's quite entertaining. Sometimes it's quite liberating, especially when you're writing fantasy fiction, because I do write across a number of genres. But anyway, in the novel, you have to go into all the detail and what the environment is. Where are we? When are we? Are we looking at a concrete jungle? Are we looking at a tropical jungle? What's the environment? Whereas in screenplay writing, it's very predictive. You're given 120 pages. and you really want to keep everything to a minimum. Short, sharp, crisp dialogue, short, sharp, crisp um, descriptions of the scenes. You can't waste pages in what is ultimately the director's and the actor's job to interpret and portray on the screen. So they're two extremely different arts, novel writing and screenplay writing.
Amazing. So you leave it up to the directors and the actors to fill in the spaces and create their own imagination.
It's very hard for somebody who is a novel writer like me and wants to tell them exactly how to do everything and how everything should look. But as the writer, that's not your job in screen. That's the director's job, unless you want to be the writer and the director, which of course happens.
So you've written so many books and so many movies also. So who were your inspirations growing up in England?
Jeffrey Archer was one of them, and I had the good fortune to meet him when he was in Australia promoting As the Crow Flies, which happens to be when I was just beginning to write Sins of Life, which was my debut novel. And I managed, through some very creative means, to be granted a 15-minute private audience with him, which became a 45-minute audience, which has become a nearly 40-year friendship now. And he was extremely helpful in giving me some advice and directing me. So he was definitely one of my literary inspirations.
Yeah, amazing. So let's move on to your other novels then. After your debut novel, what was the inspiration for the second one?
Well, the second and third were sequels to Sins of Life.
Yeah,
Um, and then after that, I was, as I said, a writer for hire.
yeah. No,
So I
yeah.
was
I
writing
wanted,
for
I
other
wanted,
people.
I wanted to get in that. So the sequels, with the sequels, how does that work? Is it like what happens to the character, or do we move on to a different subject? Yeah,
Well, no, I stayed in the industry, the finance industry, and the main protagonist follows through all three stories. We killed off the antagonist in Sins of Life, so we had to develop a new one. But at that point in time, I'd been working in London in the finance industry for 5 years, and I'd certainly met some good um, characters to base an antagonist on um, for the second and third books. So while again they're fictional stories, I had boundless material to draw on for inspiration for those characters.
yeah. I think it's really important to be an artist. You need to study the craft, but you also need life experience. You can't just know
Yes,
how to write and not have experienced anything.
you
Yeah.
really do.
So the biographies, how did that happen?
Uh, People found me. I mean, I never once went out and solicited a client. People found me from around the world. I mean, Brother Doctor was a classic example. He was living in Germany when he found me, but I've had them from all sorts of unusual corners of the globe. And I mean, I've attracted, as you read out, figure skaters, rescue helicopter pilots, psychics, Saddam Hussein's former personal pilot. That
Yeah,
was
we're going to get onto that one. That's a
really
great one.
interesting.
That one. So, was there fear or like are you intimidated when you write a biography? How much honesty goes into it? How
Oh,
much
well, now
time?
that's an interesting
Yeah,
question. Fear, no, I don't have the fear gene at all. Um, but I discovered quite quickly, I don't know if it's me or if it's the profession, but in every case, the clients who hired me to write their life stories, whether I was doing an authorized biography or ghosting their autobiography, invariably confessed something to me that they had never told anyone. Not a priest, not a parent, not a shrink, not a lover, a brother, a mother.
usually we tell our barber and taxi drivers everything because we know we're not going to see him again. But
Well, I
tell your
think,
biographer.
well, that's it. When you're telling me, you know it's going to go in a book that is going to tell the world.
Millions, yeah.
And in the case of the figure skater, he was 35, I think, when I was writing for him. Excuse me. He told me about a time he'd been molested by his coach when he was 14 years old. And this was shocking. And you have to become a bit of a shrink yourself when you're working with people and when you're writing about people. I said, have you spoken to your parents about this? And he hadn't. I said, you can't have them learn this when they read your story in a book that is out there for the world. You have to have a conversation with them before I'm prepared to put this in a public document. It took a lot of persuasion, but he agreed to do that. And the coach was subsequently caught and charged and jailed.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But conversely, with Ali, who is still a dear friend of mine, who was Saddam Hussein's personal pilot, he has been married to a lovely lady for, oh gosh, I don't know how long now, maybe 40 years. Um, but before they were married, but when they were together, and Saddam Hussein was trying to get him back. I mean, his story of escape from Baghdad is incredible. A seductress was sent after Ali, and he was very, very close to succumbing to the seduction. He was literally saved by the bell. The front doorbell rang, and that was it. It all never happened. And as he's telling me this story, I said, have you told Patricia, his wife, this story? No. So I said, the same as I said to the figure skater, you can't have her read about this for the first time in a book that's public. You have to have a conversation with her. I don't need to do that. Well, I had a long conversation with him, and I wasn't successful with him like I was with the figure skater. He was determined that she would find out about it when she read the book, and that is what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, subsequently, Ali and Patricia and I, and my mother actually, we were having dinner somewhere, and the book had been published by then. We were eating in a beautiful restaurant in Sydney, and this subject came up in conversation. Ali calls me cousin. We call each other cousin.
Okay.
He's a dear man and we're great friends. Fascinating man. And I said, I told you, cousin. And he said, he actually got the tablecloth of the table and hid under it. He said, you were right, cousin, you were right. We nearly got divorced. It was very funny.
Is that
Mm.
all? I only got divorced. Oh my God.
Nearly.
Could have been way nearly. What about the legal aspect of that also? If someone tells you, yeah, that's fine, put it in the book, and then they change their mind later on.
Oh, I have contracts.
Yeah, you need the
They're
contracts.
written under contracts that cover all those sorts of things. Mm.
Yeah. So what would be your favorite one? Which is the one you remember? Is it the
Well, Ali and Brother Doctor are clearly both very memorable. I actually had those two meet. So they're both from Iraq. And they
yeah,
were on opposite sides of things at the same time at one point in time. I had them meet in my home. That was interesting.
yeah,
One was an Assyrian Christian, one was a Muslim.
yeah,
But yeah, it was very interesting to have the two of them meet. And I mean, but Brother Doctor has passed away now, but both beautiful, fascinating men.
yeah.
And of course, writing Alby Mangels' life story,
Yeah, we're
that
going
was
to
a
get on to
challenge.
Alby Mangels, yeah.
Yes,
And he had a really difficult life, didn't he, in the 70s and all the struggles of all the productions and yeah,
he had a
all
lot
the
of ups and
criticism.
downs. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So what was it like working with Alby Mangels then on his documentaries and his interest
Very
in?
challenging because I'm an extremely organized, micromanaged person, and Albie lives in a different space-time continuum from the rest of us. So it was very frustrating for me, which translated into a very volatile relationship, which managed to survive 13 years.
13
I
years, a long
subsequently
time.
became his manager as well as his biographer. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was challenging.
yeah. All right, let's move on to your films then. So you've got so many awards for all these films. So you've got Marina del Rey Festival, Audience Best Choice Award, the Grand Prize Best Short Documentary, Best Short Documentary, Cannes World Film Festival, Amsterdam. It goes on and on and on and on.
There's
So
65. I wouldn't read them all
I
out.
know there's a lot of them there. So what is the secret to a good? I'm actually working on a documentary at the moment. My second one. I've made about
Mm.
30 plays, but my second documentary. What is a secret? The secret to a good documentary?
Well, the subject matter, first of all, which in my case was exposing the seedy underbelly of the trophy hunting industry, and it is an industry. The talent, and by that I don't mean actors, although I did have some A-list actors in my documentaries, but I also had people who were on the ground who knew what they were talking about in Africa, in America, in other countries. So when I say talent, I mean the people who are put in front of the camera. They need to be knowledgeable, they need to be articulate, they need to be confident. Um, so I was shooting in, gosh, Botswana, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Los Angeles, New York, London, Australia. I forget all the locations, Uganda. Um, and we were filming during COVID as well. So I had to literally pick up crew locally everywhere, and I zoomed in um, with a Hollywood director. So sorting out all those time zones was fun, and directed from a laptop while I had actual people on the ground in all these countries. Um,
Amazing.
so it was extremely challenging, but I mean, the result was incredible. Just fantastic editing and post-production. We had an Oscar-winning sound technician do our sound. I had a Grammy-nominated composer do the soundtrack, and pulling together the miles and miles and miles of footage we have into the documentaries that I subsequently produced. I mean, they've just exceeded any expectation that I could have had for the impact that they've had around the world and continue to have, because it wasn't just to shock people or at the very least to make people aware, it was to get laws changed, to stop this vile industry, which clearly hasn't been stopped, but we have made progress. I mean, certain airlines now refuse to carry trophies. Certain countries now refuse to import trophies. So it's not just an on-off switch, it's a multi-layered complex problem with billions of dollars at play and some very heavyweight power players behind the scenes who have a lot to lose if the industry goes the way of the dodo bird as it should do. But inch by inch, we're getting there, and
Wow.
it's a commitment.
So a real mission and a real message in all of your work. So
It is.
resistance, what kind of resistance did you have from the other party who were advocating for all the hunting and all the terrible stuff that goes on?
Well, gosh, I mean, one of the key, like the lady who first brought this to my attention, Meryl Harrison, who was a chief inspector with the Zimbabwe SPCA when I came across her in 2001. Her brother was beaten to, her twin brother was beaten to death. She faced the pointed end of an axe. I had funding for my film mysteriously evaporate on multiple occasions because the financier in each case turned out to be doing business with somebody from a large group that had a financial vested interest in maintaining the trophy hunting industry, who would say, if you still want our business, you can't do business with her. Um, so there were multiple challenges to getting these documentaries up, but we did it.
All right. On a lighter note now, let's go to some pictures of you now. I have some images of you. Let me share my screen. We'll get back into some of the work, but this is really interesting. So you had the whole gang from Boney
Oh
M.
dear.
Can you see that? The
Yes, I did.
whole the whole gang, the whole band, all of them there come
That
visit you.
was how that happened. Jerry Hemmer, who's front left in that picture, was a client. I wrote a book for her, and she became a personal friend, as most of my clients do. And she's the first cousin to Maisie Williams, who is the last surviving original member from Boney M.
Yeah,
And they're like sisters. And she wanted
amazing.
me to meet. Maisie, they were touring Australia, and I said, yes, I'd love to. That's my late mum at that table too.
God
And
bless her.
thank you. So Jerry arranged a time to bring Maisie over and said, I'm bringing Maisie over with Boney M, all of them. And I went, what?
Are you serious? Yeah.
I said, okay, I do not have food and drink in the house for 14 people. Just give me a minute to, anyway. They came over and we had the most fun afternoon. It was a riot, an absolute riot. Just, that was a
I've got
wonderful
another.
experience.
That's a closer one there. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes.
What about that one there? Was that one of the
Okay,
awards?
so that was at the 2015 Emmy Awards. And that's with James Gannear, who was my production partner on the Land of the Free documentaries that we were just discussing. And 2015 was the year that Cecil the Lion was famously slaughtered by Walter Palmer, the American dentist, lured out of a sanctuary and shot with a bow and arrow, leaving him to die a very slow, terrifying, agonizing death. And, this is over 10 years ago now, but anyone who remembers it will remember it was global saturation coverage. And so I decided the Emmys was a place to make a statement. This was pre-making my documentaries. So we were very much in pre-production at that point in time. And I had a designer friend of mine, Roe London, design that outfit with Cecil's face on it. And as you can see, it says in memory of Cecil. And I can tell you that outfit was more photographed than the Emmy winners.
Yeah, it looks great. Looks fabulous.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to this one. I really love this one. So this is you, um, just an animal lover. I mean, there's so many photographs of you of swans, and you love your ducks and your lakes and the water. But this one here really resonates. It's a lovely photograph.
It's actually that photo is the photograph I chose as my author photo for my debut novel. That's in Namibia at a place
Wow.
called the Africat Foundation. That's German Southwest Africa. And those two cheetahs had been rescued from awful situations and rehabilitated in the foundation. And because I was a financial supporter of the foundation, they allowed me, which a tourist wouldn't normally be allowed to do, to wander unfettered into the compound with these two cheetah. And as you can see, we had an immediate, incredible bond. I mean, just look how relaxed we are with each other. I mean, and
Yeah.
I hadn't worked with these cheetah. This was the first time I'd met them. And cheetah are the only big cats that can purr, and they were purring.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that was just an absolutely magical, magical moment. As I said, though, I don't have the fear gene, and animals can
No,
literally
no,
smell fear.
they
So if
can.
you're relaxed and they're not hungry or threatened, they're going to be relaxed, as you can see.
Fantastic. All right, well, I'll
Mm.
stop sharing for now. We'll share again soon because we want to show everyone your magnificent house that everyone has been to, including obviously Bonnie M. Now, Priscilla Presley. Let's talk about the amazing Priscilla.
Oh, she's
Um,
gorgeous.
what
Yes.
an amazing woman. What an amazing, I mean, a hard
And we're
life.
such good friends. We're such good
Yeah,
friends. I mean, we've known each other for 20 years and we're true friends. I mean, ponytails, tracksuits, and movies friends, being in each other's homes friends. Talk about private family things, friends. I love her to pieces, and she has a wicked sense of humor like I do. So we get along really well on that score. And in that 20 years, we've both had tragedies in our lives.
yeah.
Um, we've shared with each other, but she's also a great fan of my work, which is,
Oh, yeah.
wonderful. And when I started to write Swan Song, the book that's pictured here, she had actually been in my home and met the real life Swan, who the star of that story is based on, and she wishes to voice that character in a prosed animated musical feature adaptation of the story. The Swan Queen is called Serena,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
that was the swan's real name. And Priscilla's personality and voice is perfect because she Serena is elegant and, as the name suggests, serene, but she's tough, she's smart, she's wily. It's all the things Priscilla is. She's perfect for it. Absolutely perfect.
Amazing.
Mm.
And that was the third collaboration together, wasn't it, with Priscilla?
Well, yes, because Priscilla was in both of my documentaries as well.
Yeah. And what a name, Swan Song. It's just the ultimate, the final. It could not be, it might not be the final, but it's just such a strong,
Yes,
blunt statement, isn't it? Well,
it
let's
is.
show everyone your amazing house, 30 Peninsula, uh, Gold Coast. Let me show you this amazing property and that everyone's been to, basically. Can you see that? Okay.
Can't hear the sound, but I can see the vision.
Oh.
It's actually playing Now or Never. Mm.
And what a choice of song. It's Now or Never. Come hold me tight. Kiss me,
I
my
actually, I actually could,
darling.
I
Be
couldn't hear
mine
the
tonight.
audio.
Oh, really? The audio wasn't
Mm.
on? Oh, okay. So it was Now or Never. That's strange. So tell me about putting the house together over all these years. It's a masterpiece, isn't it? It's full of memorabilia, obviously from the Elvis era and all the
It,
other
it was a,
amazing.
it was originally a Boys Town prize home, which anyone who isn't a resident of Queensland might not know about. But in Queensland, the Returned Servicemen's League, the RSL, and Boys Town have raffle draws effectively every couple of months, where they give these multi-million-dollar homes fully furnished away as the prize. Um, and this property was the prize 40 years ago, in 1986. Um, the prize winner sold immediately to a member of the Habib family, actually, from Lebanon. They bought tickets in the prize. They really wanted a home, but didn't win. And so they got straight onto the buyers and just wrote them a check. They said, "We want it." So they bought it straight away. So the winners never moved in. The Habib family did. And then we bought it off them 15 years later. So there's only been two owners in the property, and we've lived there ever since. Now, the property is 1,056 square meters, which is large, and
Yep.
we're on 40 meters of waterfront on this property on a 17-hectare landlocked lake. And the relevance of being landlocked means no sharks.
That's
It's
important to know. It's an important
That's
piece of
yes.
information, yeah.
So it's pristine water. It's just a magnificent environment in Mermaid Waters. That's the name of the suburb, which is just as idyllic as it sounds. Um, and I have been here 27 years, and I've obviously made a lot of adjustments and improvements in that time. In the lower gardens, in one area, I've recreated life-size replicas of all the characters from Jungle Book. So I've got
Wow.
a Shere Khan, I've got a Bagheera, I've got a Mowgli, I've got signposts. It's all very cute. And down the other end of the lower ground, where we've got a wishing well, there's a magnificent old paperbark tree, who's actually a central character in my last book, the one that followed Swan Song. The the tree is an ancient sage, but the tree itself had a long, ugly root.
Yep.
So I created a stone path to cover the root and put a door to Narnia at the end of it. So there's a door to Narnia in Kalara is the name of the tree.
Wow.
Um, and then inside, well, you've just seen some of the inside. I have lovingly oiled every piece of wood and waxed every piece of leather every 6 months for 27 years. So absolutely pristine condition. But although I've kept the original wood kitchen and a lot of the original features, because I think all this must be white and clinical and modern is nonsense. I prefer elegance and grandeur and style, which is what this house has. But behind all the original doors, I've got all the mod cons in the kitchen. All of the air conditioning is 18 months old.
Yep.
Every piece of equipment in the swimming pool has been replaced and I've had it relined. So even though it's a 40-year-old home that has all the quality and style and grandeur of a 40-year-old home,
Yep.
every behind that is all modern. So, and I'm selling it fully furnished because I'm heading back. I'm heading to Hollywood to do some work with Priscilla and so on, so on. But predominantly, I'm heading back to Africa with half of a view of remaining there, more than half a view of remaining there. Africa is where my heart is. So I'm selling it fully furnished with, the Noble House Baroque interior design furniture, the cream lacquered young Cham baby grand piano, which is gorgeous. All the Hollywood signed memorabilia, that's all going with the house, fully furnished. What you see is what you get, all the beautiful lighting and so
Amazing.
forth.
We have a lot of audience from the Middle East and Europe and America and obviously Australia that might want to ask some questions about that. You got me thinking about a really important quote by Goldsmith when you mentioned old, because I love everything old too. My house is full of antiques and statues and books. There's an old quote that says, I love everything that's old. Old friends, old times, old manners, old books and old wine. Old books to burn, old wine to drink, old friends to trust, old authors to read by Goldsmith. It's a great little quote in his book about
That's a
opera.
lovely quote.
Yeah, hold on, what's wrong with the camera? Here we go. It's an old book.
And also
Yeah.
you're buying history and legacy here. I've
Yep.
actually got all the celebrity visitors who have been here up on a wall of fame, and you're buying a wildlife sanctuary because over
Wow.
27 years, I've nurtured the over 30 species of birds and turtles and water dragons that live here. I've got one water dragon that sleeps in my pool filter. She thinks it's her bat cave. Um,
Amazing.
and I actually I have the property under contract, but it expired yesterday
Yep.
because the buyer's buyer fell out, so they weren't able to sell their property. Now they're deeply emotionally invested in this property. They desperately want it, and they'd be the perfect custodians for it. I mean, to the point where they've dropped their asking price significantly. But as of now, I am free and clear to sell it. All their contract, my agent's contract, everything, that's all expired as of today. So I am free and clear to sell it if I get the right offer. But I mean, now because I waited for these people, you know, I'm I'm looking to sell quickly now. So I'm looking, I mean, basically I'll look at cash offers that are above 2.5, if I get an unconditional settlement in 30 days, even though it's worth a lot more than that,
Yep.
because of how this has unfolded. So that's the situation. But those buyers are still pretty determined they're going to sell their place and get it. So we'll see.
Yeah. And everybody's seen that house, including Tippi Hedren. And
Tippy
Tippi
stayed
Hedren,
here.
yeah. Oh, wow. She was in The
Yeah,
Birds, that really scary
she
movie, all
was.
the terrifying
Yeah,
Hitchcock film. I used to
yeah,
think Kim Novak was in that film. She was in his other movies.
that's
East
right.
was it
Yeah,
one of Cary Grant? Sorry.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So everyone's been there. What an amazing life, Lynn. An amazing life lived. Producer, writer, author, advocate.
It's
You've done it
fabulous
all,
Elvis
haven't you?
stuff that's going with the house from Priscilla as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing.
Mm. And there's signed memorabilia from Tippi, yeah. And Dame Virginia McKenna of Born Free fame. She's in my documentary as well. There's signed memorabilia from her. So all of that's going with the house.
Yeah,
I,
well,
I need to be clear to up and away.
I'll add all of that in the caption when we finish the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, Lynn. I hope we can have
Thank you.
a second run soon together, and
I would
keep
love it.
us updated with your fantastic work in Hollywood and Australia and around the
Thank
world.
you.
And
Thank you.
maybe we can meet in Africa one day.
That would be wonderful.
Absolute pleasure, Lynn. We've been talking to Lynn Santer all the way from Queensland, Australia. You've been listening to Hashem's podcast. We were lucky enough to have the acclaimed producer, author, writer, Lynn on our show this morning. And good night from Cairo. See you soon. Bye.
Okay.